Welcome back, warrior. We are on Jacob chapter 5, verse. Okay, now I can't remember where we ended. Hold on. Ugh. Oh. Here we go. I have the notes. Okay, so we ended. Nope, that didn't help anybody. That doesn't help anybody. I didn't take notes of where I ended. Oh, sorry. Yes. 49. We're at 49. Or we read up to 49. Am I right? Did we read up to 49? We're going to pause. Yes, we did read till 49. So now we're at verse 50. Remember, they had gone down. The servant and the Lord of the vineyard went down to he said, let us go to and hew down the trees of the vineyard and cast them into the fire, that they shall not cumber the ground of my vineyard, for I have done all. What could I have done more for my vineyard? Okay, so that's where we are. Sorry. So many things running through my head right now. Okay, verse 51. And the Lord said, yea, I will spare it. Verse 50. But behold, the servant said unto the Lord of the vineyard, spare it a little longer. And the Lord said, yea, I will spare it a little longer, for it grieveth me that I should lose the trees of my vineyard. Wherefore let us take of the branches of these which I have planted in the nethermost parts of my vineyard, and let us graft them into the tree from whence they came, and let us pluck from... Sometimes I forget that I have glasses. I'm like, these words are blurry. And let us graft them into the tree from whence they came, and let us pluck from the tree those branches whose fruit is most bitter, and graft in the natural branches of the tree in the stead thereof. So they're trying to restore the branches, right? This is the restoration of Israel, or the gathering of Israel. This is like what that's supposed to represent now. And this will I do, that the tree may not perish, that perhaps I may preserve unto myself the roots thereof for mine own purpose. And behold, the roots of the natural branches of the tree which I planted whithersoever I would are yet alive. Wherefore, that I may preserve them also for mine own purpose, I will take of the branches of this tree, and I will graft them in unto them. Yea, I will graft in unto them the branches of their mother tree, that I may preserve the roots also unto mine own self. That when they shall be sufficiently strong, perhaps they may bring forth good fruit unto me, and I may yet have glory in the fruit of my vineyard. And it came to pass that they took from the natural tree which had become wild, and grafted it unto the natural trees which had become wild. And they also took of the natural trees which had become wild, and grafted into their mother tree. And the Lord of the vineyard said unto the servant, pluck not the wild branches from the trees, save it be those which are most bitter, and in them ye shall graft according to that which I have said. Okay, so we're now on the fourth visit, okay, and I'm going to read up until 70, and then we're going to read this little recap that they have. Okay, except I did want to point out that our Read It, Live It from before, I should have read it then, but I want to read it now because before I keep going. So we're on 58. Okay, so if you go back to verse 22, it says, the Lord of the vineyard keeps reminding us of the long time he spent nourishing the trees in his vineyard. If you look carefully, you will see the character of Christ manifested in the Lord of the vineyard. What does this long time nourishing teach you about the character of Christ? Oh, I love that question. Record your thoughts. Okay, and then let's see, is this okay? And then from 49, this is another Read It, Live It. And it says, in these verses, the Lord weeps over the vineyard and asks, what could I have done more for all? I have done all. So spend some time thinking about all the Lord has done for you. Like that. And then we're just trying to catch up, because I feel like we haven't been reading all of these, because it's Jacob 5, and I want to read it faster than they're reading it, but then at the same time, I miss these things. Okay, so now we're on verse 58. So this is great because verse 58 is what I will read right now. It says, "And we will nourish again the trees of the vineyard, and we will trim up the branches thereof, and we will pluck from the trees those branches which are ripened that must perish, and cast them into the fire." And this is what it says about 58. The story uses the word again 12 different times in the next few verses. The Lord goes forth again and again and again for the last time. Sounds like my grandmother. So my abuelita, and she was like, would love to talk to you about like everything, not during the visit that you were there for, but at the very end when you have to go. And you're like, okay, I think it's time for me to go, and you did not schedule yourself enough time for the goodbye, because during the goodbye, she tells you all the things that she could have been talking to you about prior, but somehow did not mention any of those things. And now all of a sudden she has remembered everything she would like to tell you from like all time. And then she just goes to say goodbye with all the things, right? And so I love that the Lord is going to go forth again and again and again for this last time, right? So like, okay, for real now, we're going to go. And no, but for real now, we're going to go. And no, again, like this is the last time, we're going to go now. And so that's cute. I think that I've never noticed that happens in this story. So I'm grateful that the Lord doesn't give up, and that we can recognize him as a God of second chances. And that's what it says here. Recognize him as a God of second chances. And I think that's powerful for us to remember. And remember that he's not just talking. Sometimes with betrayal trauma, we think that the Lord is trying to tell us, and everyone is trying to tell us, you just need to forgive your husband, and you just need to forgive and forgive and forgive. And forgiveness is for you, because then you can let it go. And I can't tell you how many times that bugged me. And also the fact that like your husband is also probably going to text you about this. He's probably going to be hearing talks because now he's trying to do the right thing. Right? I don't want to, like, I don't want to talk bad. So your husband's trying to do the right thing, and it's understandable that he has to get into a pattern, and it's something that he could have been doing this whole time instead of wasting time before. But, now, we're trying to get out of the fog that Satan has had him in. And so we need to be patient with our husbands. So now they're going to be seeing all kinds of things in scriptures that you have seen in the past and in conference talks, and things that you could have easily texted him like, hey, look at this talk. It's talking about sin and pornography. Maybe you should stop watching that, right? Okay. But like we show some self-restraint and we're like, it's fine. We're going to, we're working on it. Like we don't need to bring it up all the time. But now all of a sudden, he's going to see talks about forgiveness and want to send them to you. And this is where you say, bless their heart, because their heart is in the right place, because they really don't understand what the torture that we're receiving because of that is all about. And so they think if we can just forgive them, this will go away. And I will tell you right now that I forgave my husband like almost immediately. Okay. But just because I forgave him does not mean that trust was built up immediately. It doesn't mean that we can go back to the way things were. It doesn't mean that we're going to all of a sudden, not have any problems in our marriage. And it doesn't mean that it's okay for him to go back and do the same thing. Right. And so what it does mean is that, hey, you know what? I forgive you, and we can move on from this is basically what it means. And because of the fact that I'm still here, okay, or that I was still there, that should show that I am a forgiving person, because now I'm willing to endure this other layer of attacks from the adversary because of this new discovery or disclosure. And I feel like the dark, like I'm able to see the darkness now in a way that I never had before. And because of that, and I think that's fantastic. Like it's so good. But at the same time, I'm going to experience the same, like that torture from the adversary, because now he knows that he can torture me with those things because of where we've been. And it's kind of like, I'll give you like a food example. Okay. I haven't always had a healthy relationship with food. And so sometimes I will just eat just because other people are eating, but I know that I don't need to eat. Right. And so, but I'm drawn to like, and tempted to eat with people. I don't know what it is. It must be this Hispanic thing, because I swear, like every time we get together to eat food, there's pictures and all the things happen around the table. Right. Anyway, so anyway, there's pictures with food. And so I feel like maybe I'm going to have some FOMO if I don't have food at the same time. I don't know. It's like a Hispanic thing. Maybe in your culture they do that. I don't know. But anyway, so my food relationship has not always been the best. So Satan is going to tempt me with food because he knows that I'm trying to make better choices with food. And so he's going to now torture me with, hey, you need to eat that food. Hey, if you don't eat that food, but then after I do eat that food, then he's going to use that to torture me with thoughts of like my body. And I can't even tell you how much that is something that is also in our Hispanic culture. It's like when you see somebody, it's like, oh, you look so good, or, oh, you look like you lost weight, or, oh, you look like you gained weight. I don't know why we have to talk about our weight. The first sentence that comes out of our mouths is like about our weight. So yeah, I have to deal with a lot of those things. So anyway, so of course we have like the food, and then we have, that struggle. And then we have the temptation of like the self-loathing or, self-criticism, or just like because of the fact that I struggled with food, then now it's like a thing that he's going to torture me with. And so I have to, and about my body. And so I have to know, okay, that's Satan trying to tempt me about making me think ill about my body that the Lord has given me. And then I, am going to lose confidence, whatever. And then, I'm in this spiral. But that's going to be the same way now that we have our eyes opened to our husband's addictions or addiction, right, to pornography. I think betrayal trauma is the name that we give the torture that comes from Satan. Like if he was going to, I could picture him being like, hey, like telling his minions, hey, we need to go out and torture some women today. Remember the betrayal trauma. Okay. Remember to do that, and like, remember to tempt them with food, and remember to keep your eye on their body and make them think that they are not doing well there, and have them lose confidence. And, that's kind of what I think. And, all the things and all the different names of things that are hard for us. And remember to give them anxiety about motherhood and how they're doing with that relationship, and that's how I see Satan, like divvying out the assignments. And who knows, I could be so right and I could be so wrong, but that's the story that I tell myself about how Satan works. And it helps me to visualize it that way, because then I can understand that I'm going to get these whispers, and that's all they are. It's just temptations. It's deception. It's just lies, and it's not actual facts, or it's not really what's going on. And so I love that. Where was I going with this? I love that as we are, I think I remember, as we are working with our husbands' recovery, and we're working our own recovery, like we're just, obviously witnessing their recovery, and then we have our own journey of recovery, that we need to remember that they're just trying to do their best and we're trying to do our best. And I did at one point have to tell my husband why I couldn't get those text messages about talks that referenced forgiveness. And I told him, I said, the reason is because I have already forgiven you. So I don't know why we keep bringing this back up. But that those talks are really triggering to me because it makes me feel like there's something that I need to further forgive. I'm like, I've already forgiven you, so it's just now up to you to, work on the trust building and the relationship, if you care to still have one, and things like that. So anyway, that's the second chances is we're giving our spouse a second chance with the forgiveness. And that's how I came to that whole thing. All right. Okay. Our Jacob 5 is really that long. Okay. Hold on. Okay. I was getting messages and I'm like, stop with the messages. Okay. So we are on Jacob chapter 5, verse 60 now. So it says, and because that I have, because we were talking about second chances. But now it says, and because that I have preserved the natural branches, hold on, wait. Just kidding. We're on 59. And this I do, that perhaps the roots thereof may take strength because of their goodness, and because of the change of the branches, that the good may overcome the evil. And because that I have preserved the natural branches and the roots thereof, and that I have grafted in the natural branches again into their mother tree, I have preserved the roots of their mother tree, that perhaps the trees of my vineyard may bring forth again good fruit, and that I may have joy again in the fruit of my vineyard, and perhaps that I may rejoice exceedingly that I have preserved the roots and the branches of the first fruit. Wherefore go to and call servants, that we may labor diligently with our might in the vineyard, that we may prepare the way, that I may bring forth again the natural fruit, which natural fruit is good and the most precious above all other fruit. I love that the Lord realized that we are going to need more help. And there's a book called Who, Not How. And I think this kind of goes along with that. Like, go and call servants. Like, we're going to need more help to increase our productivity, to increase our fruit, to increase our results. So you can't just do this by yourself anymore. So you need to branch out, get more people, delegate, get help. And we can apply that same concept that the Lord applies to his vineyard to our businesses. And I love that because it helps me understand that I literally can't do it by myself. We also could apply this to our family life. And if you're feeling like really overwhelmed, like too many house chores that we have to do, it's great if that's your thing and you want to do it, but it's also great if you don't want to do it and you can hire somebody to do that. And maybe while you're working, you could get somebody to do something for you. And yes, when you're working and you pay somebody, that it's like babysitting, right? Like you pay babysitter so you could go to work. So it just depends on what you prefer to do, right? And then there's like the time value of money, and then there's like, hopefully you can find somebody that you hire that's like, that doesn't require the whole amount that you're paying your babysitter, or that you're working for to pay your babysitter, and so forth, right? And then as you work smarter instead of harder, then you're able to get more money, and then eventually that sitter fee or that cleaning fee or that yard work fee doesn't seem so overwhelming, because now you have been able to maximize your skills and your potential to be able to provide for that person to serve you. And so I hope that makes sense. Anyway, I love that. Okay, and then verse 62, wherefore let us go to and labor with our might this last time. For behold, the end draweth nigh, and this is for the last time that I shall prune my vineyard. Graft in the branches, begin at the last, that they may be first, and that the first may be last. And dig about the trees, both old and young, the first and the last, and the last and the first, that all may be nourished once again for the last time. Wherefore dig about them and prune them and dung them once more for the last time, for the end draweth nigh. And if it so be that these last grafts shall grow and bring forth the natural fruit, then shall ye prepare the way for them that they may grow. And as they begin to grow, ye shall clear away the branches which bring forth bitter fruit, according to the strength of the good and the size thereof. And ye shall not clear away the bad thereof all at once, lest the roots thereof should be too strong for the graft, and the graft therefore shall perish, and I lose the trees of my vineyard. So grow things carefully, be patient with your growth, right? That seems like that's what the message is here. Like, be careful, don't get rid of everything that's bad. Sometimes in our excitement to get things done, we're like, let's start over, and you just kind of whoosh everything, right? There's a time and a place for that, but the Lord is saying that there's still value in some of the things, and so you don't want to just start over. You want to use what you have in place. It's kind of like I almost liken it to some procedures that you have, right? Some tried and true methods. If there's some tried and true methods, don't just give up on those, and don't just start from scratch. Like, use that and then build on that. And then verse 66, so we're just going to read up until 70, and then there's some comments. For it grieveth me that I should lose the trees of my vineyard. Wherefore ye shall clear away the bad according as the good shall grow, that the root and the top may be equal in strength, until the good shall overcome the bad, and the bad be hewn down and cast into the fire, that they cumber not the ground of my vineyard. And thus will I sweep away the bad out of my vineyard. So once it's cut down, sweeps away. And the branches of the natural tree will I graft in again. So he's grafting in again into the natural tree. And okay, so the branches of the natural tree, he's grafting into the natural tree again. So I think it was like, before it was like he was grafting in wild branches to the natural tree, and then he was grafting, I don't remember. It's hard to keep track of all the things he's grafting. But it just goes to show that there's multiple things, but then it's like, hey, maybe that original thing worked better. And then the branches of the natural tree will I graft into the natural branches of the tree, and thus will I bring them together again. So bringing everything back. So that's like the gathering of Israel. And they shall bring forth the natural fruit, and they shall be one. That's awesome. And the bad shall be cast away, yea, even out of the land of my vineyard. For behold, only this once will I prune my vineyard. And it came to pass that the Lord of the vineyard sent his servant, and the servant went and did as the Lord had commanded him, and brought other servants, and they were few. Okay, so he probably interviewed a lot of people, but wanted to get some serious dedication from certain people, right? That was what the servant was supposed to do. Go bring some more people, but ended up only with a few. And that makes sense. Usually when you're working or when you're hiring, you interview and you get a bunch of applicants, right? But it's not even until like the interview process that you start deciding who's left. And then actually there's an example. One time we hired somebody at our video business, so called Mustache Power. And it was so funny because we went through the whole interview process, and I was doing initial interviews and looking through the resumes and everything. And then they would meet with my husband and his partner, and they would decide if that's like a good fit, right? And so then they hired this person, and then no joke, he showed up one time, and then, or did he show up even one time? I can't even remember. I think he was offered the job, he accepted the job, and he either showed up one time and then never again, or didn't even show up at all. I think he did come in. I think that's what it was. He came in and then didn't show up at all. And we were like, what? Like, this is so weird. Like, what happened to this guy? Like, no contact at all from the person. Hopefully they're okay, but we were just like really shocked. Like, oh, I guess he's not the one, right? Like, so sometimes you're gonna think that you're gonna get a bunch of employees or help, and then they don't show up, and you're just like, okay, well, and then you end up with just a few. And I love also being able to see how the Lord ends up with a few also. So it's not just us. The Lord ends up with just a few helpers. And we need to decide, are we going to be helping him gather Israel? Are we going to be one of the few? Or are we going to be one of, one on the team? Or are we going to be the one that like says we're so gung-ho and we're so excited to work, and then we're like, out, So something to think about, right? Okay, so notice the instructions the Lord gives to the servants in verse 62 to 65. They are to labor with their might. Notice the intensive labor in verse 64 and the urgency that this is for the last time. Notice in verse 65 that the servants are to be careful and skillful in their efforts. They aren't just to go in and start causing growth wherever they can and clearing away the bad wherever they see it. They are to grow carefully until the good shall overcome the bad. Okay, the stage, this is a quote from Elder Dean L. Larson. Says, the prophet Zenos, whom Jacob quotes in the Book of Mormon, compares this effort to the work of the laborers who prune and nurture the vineyard and gather its fruit for the last time. Zenos likens the Savior to the master of the vineyard, who says to those who are his helpers, wherefore let us go too and labor with our might this last time. For behold, the end draweth nigh, and this is the last time that I shall prune my vineyard. You have come to the earth when the foundation has been laid for this great work. The gospel has been restored for the last time. The church has been established in almost every part of the world. The stage is set for the final dramatic scenes to be enacted. You will be the principal players. You are among the last laborers in the vineyard. This is the yoke that is set upon your necks. This is the service for which you are chosen. Isn't that awesome? End quote. I always do that. And that was in April 1983 General Conference. Then Sister Sharon Eubank talks about verse 66 to teach the importance of unity. Notice what she said. Okay, and I'm going to write that down because I love Sister Eubank's talks. And so we're probably just going to link that to here. Also, if you've seen the last General Conference, there was like a little blurb about the charities or the Latter-day Saint charities or whatever the church's charity outreaches or relief. And I got to see Sister Eubank on there. Like, she comes on the screen and she just looked so happy. I think she's no longer the Relief Society General President. That was a while back, but she is now serving as like president of relief efforts in like all over the world kind of thing. And it just was so cool to see, like, she was just so smiley. And I was just like, that is so cool that she finds so much joy in serving the Lord and serving his children that way. So anyway, I just thought she is amazing. And anytime I get to learn from her, it's like a privilege. So she kind of reminds me of Sherry Dew. I also equally or probably, well, I love Sherry Dew. In fact, I probably like Sherry Dew a little bit more, but only because I think I've heard more talks from Sherry Dew, and so I feel like I really like her more. Doesn't matter. You can have favorites. It's fine. Okay, here we go. Sister Sharon Eubank quote from October 2020 General Conference. Ooh, this was like COVID conference. Okay. In the exquisite allegory in Jacob 5, the Lord of the vineyard planted a good tree in the good ground, but it became corrupted over time and brought forth wild fruit. The Lord of the vineyard says 8 times, it grieveth me to lose this tree. The servant says to the Lord of the vineyard, spare the tree a little longer. And the Lord said, yea, I will spare it a little longer. And then comes instruction that can be applied to all of us trying to dig about and find fruit in our own little vineyards. Ye shall clear away the bad according as the good shall grow. Unity doesn't magically happen. It takes work. It's messy, sometimes uncomfortable, and happens gradually when we clear away the bad as fast as the good can grow. We are never alone in our efforts to create unity. Jacob 5 continues, the servants did go and labor with their mights, and the Lord of the vineyard labored also with them. So the Lord is promising us that he's going to be with us, right? Each of us is going to have deeply wounding experiences, things that should never happen. Each of us will also at various times allow pride and loftiness to corrupt the fruit we bear. But Jesus Christ is our Savior in all things. His power reaches to the very bottom and is reliably there for us when we call on him. We all beg for mercy for sins and failures, for our sins and failures. He freely gives it, and he asks us if we can give that same mercy and understanding to each other. Jesus put it bluntly, be one, and if ye are not one, ye are not mine. But if we are one, he will help clear away the bad as fast as the good does grow. End quote. Ooh, I love that. Okay, now we're going to read 71 to 77. I promise this is so long. There's like a really good quote from Elder D. Todd Christofferson. I love that they put brother in there, even though it's a General Conference talk. And he's an apostle of the Lord, so I'm going to call him Elder. So 71, and the Lord of the vineyard, the Lord of the vineyard said unto them, go to and labor in the vineyard and with your might. For behold, this is the last time that I shall nourish my vineyard. For the end is nigh at hand, and the season speedily cometh. And if ye labor with your might with me, ye shall have joy in the fruit which I shall lay up unto myself against the time which will soon come. Oh, I love it. If ye labor with your might with me, ye shall have joy. So there you go. With your might, like all your strength, right? We labor with him with all our strength, right? And it came to pass that the servants did go and labor with their mights, and the Lord of the vineyard labored also with them, and they did obey the commandments of the Lord of the vineyard in all things. And there began to be the natural fruit again in the vineyard, and the natural branches began to grow and thrive exceedingly, and the wild branches began to be plucked off and to be cast away, and they did keep the root and the top thereof equal according to the strength thereof. And thus they labored with all diligence according to the commandments of the Lord of the vineyard, even until the bad had been cast away out of the vineyard, and the Lord had preserved unto himself that the trees had become again the natural fruit, and they became like unto one body, and the fruits were equal. And the Lord of the vineyard had preserved unto himself the natural fruit, which was most precious unto him from the beginning. So what I also am kind of learning is like, we make things so complicated, but Christ just wants like so simple, just like the natural fruit, just like our simple sacrifices. He loves effort, and he wants us to serve in the vineyard with him, but we don't have to make things crazy, wild. We don't have to make things wild. I wonder like how the word wild came, like what did they translate to make that word wild? You guys, if you know, you can put it in the comments, because like wild just seems kind of crazy, right? And it seems like sometimes I get a little crazy with the service that I render. I'm not going to lie. And probably people would consider it wild. But it's the way that I serve, right? And so, but maybe I do need to scale it back a little bit so that I can focus more on my vineyard here, so that they won't go wild, and they will stay, and they won't go corrupt because of my wildness. Does that make sense? I don't know if it makes sense. It makes sense to me. If I keep my fruit simple and natural, right? Back to the roots, like go back to the OG, right? Then maybe the fruit that I have, meaning my children, won't get corrupted because of the wildness that I'm trying to add into my life. Because that just feels like chaos, right? The wild kind of represents chaos in my eyes. And who's the one that helps us go crazy? Satan, thanks for that. Okay, 75. And it came to wait, am I on 75? Yeah. 75. And it came to pass that when the Lord of the vineyard saw that his fruit was good and that his vineyard was no more corrupt, he called up his servants and said unto them, Behold, for this last time we have nourished my vineyard, and thou beholdest that I have done according to my will, and I have preserved the natural fruit, that it is good, even like as it was in the beginning. And blessed art thou, for because ye have been diligent in laboring with me in my vineyard, and ye have kept my commandments, and have brought unto me again the natural fruit, that my vineyard is no more corrupted, and the bad is cast away. Behold, ye shall have joy with me because of the fruit of my vineyard. Yes, we're going to have that joy with him. For behold, for a long time will I lay up of the fruit of my vineyard unto mine own self against the season, which speedily cometh. And for the last time have I nourished my vineyard, and pruned it, and dung about it, and dunged it. Wherefore I will lay up unto mine own self the fruit for a long time, according to that which I have spoken. And when the time cometh that evil fruit shall again come into my vineyard, then will I cause the good and the bad to be gathered. And the good will I preserve unto myself, and the bad I will cast away into its own place. And then cometh the season and the end, and my vineyard will I cause to be burned with fire. So yeah, he collects just the fruit, right? Okay, so the Lord promises his servants that if ye labor with your might with me, ye shall have joy. Then notice in verse 72 that as the servants went forth, the Lord of the vineyard labored also with them. Here's a quote from Elder D. Todd Christofferson. While we strive to be diligent in building up Zion, including our part in the gathering of the Lord's elect and redemption of the dead, we can pause to remember that it is the Lord's work and he is doing it. He is the Lord of the vineyard, and we are his servants. He bids us labor in the vineyard with our might this last time, and he labors with us. It would probably be more accurate to say he permits us to labor with him. I like that. As Paul said, I have planted, Apollos watered, but God gave the increase. It is he who is hastening his work in its time, employing our admittedly imperfect efforts, our small means. The Lord brings about great things. This great and last dispensation is building steadily to its climax, Zion on earth being joined with Zion from above at the Savior's glorious return. The Church of Jesus Christ is commissioned to prepare and is preparing the world for that day. End quote. Ooh, 2019 General Conference. Love it. And that was before COVID. I always bring that up because I just want us to remember, COVID. Remember always, like you're not going to forget. But that affected so many, like all of us. It affected all of us. And so it's just something that we need to remember, kind of like the flood, How did the Lord bring us through the flood? And and when I say us, I mean, Noah and his ark, it's us, right? And then how does the Lord bring us through our trials and our tribulations? We need to remember that. Okay, here is prophecy. So this is the very last part. The work in the vineyard will be successful. The Lord will restore his entire vineyard. Notice how spreading the branches from the mother tree ended up strengthening the entire vineyard. As long as those branches brought forth good fruit, the new trees that they were now joined with were... Okay. Whoops, just spit on my iPad. Okay. As long as those branches brought forth good fruit, the new trees that were now joined with were blessed. Now, the new trees that they were now joined with were blessed. Okay. I don't even know if reading it so many times makes sense anymore. Okay, because of this, there will be a period of much good fruit. This is the millennium. See the footnotes of the scriptures. Ooh. The millennium is a time of peace and many good works. And then in the seminary manual explains verse 77 as follows. After the second coming of Jesus Christ, righteousness will prevail for a long time during the millennium. When evil again enters the world, God will separate the righteous from the wicked and cleanse the earth by fire. Ooh, that's awesome. That's from the Book of Mormon Seminary Teacher Manual, lesson 47. Okay, that is it for our Jacob 5. Why did that take so long? It's such a long thing, but it's so good. I honestly love all of it. Jacob 6 is not very long, and Jacob 7 is a regular amount. So we will look forward to Jacob 6 and learn from there. But in the meantime, as always, stay strong, warrior. Have a great day.